you see a lot of cigar brands, Casa de, and their last names. For us, it's not about us. For us, it's about the consumer. It's about your dream. What's Antoine's dream, and how do you make that possible? And then when you're smoking a Vitola that takes you an hour and 20 minutes to smoke, you have no choice but to sit there and dream and find ways to make that dream possible.
So today you're in luck. Instead of just having one guest, I have 4 guests on today's show. So today we're going to be talking to the team from Casa de Sueños. We have 4 of their team members here to talk about why did they create this cigar. Understanding the motivations behind why they created the cigar is going to make for a very compelling story, I believe. We're going to learn about how this group of friends who are based out in Silicon Valley went on to create a cigar brand that comes out of the Dominican Republic. So if you think about all the innovation that comes out of Silicon Valley, you might not think about cigars. But this episode, I think, is going to change what you think about that. So let's get to today's guest. Hi, guys, and welcome to Deep Cuts Live. So I want you all to introduce yourselves because I'm not good with names, believe it or not, even though being a writer. But introduce yourselves to people and tell people who you are.
Okay, I go. My name is Ozhen Arsenous.
I'm Patrick Diaz.
Chris Olivares.
Kerry Knight.
And we're Casa de Sueños.
Yeah, so for people who don't know, this is the team behind Casa de Sueños. It's a brand that I've known for a bit. I think I first encountered you all at Pro Cigar. Maybe not the whole team, but bits and pieces of the team at Pro Cigar, and then at the PCA trade show. So I definitely think it's an interesting brand from what I know about your story. But I'm going to pretend like I don't know anything about your story, and we're just going to kind of like dive in and really figure out who you all are and like why did you all decide to get into cigars? Because as people know, cigars is not an easy business to get into. So it's definitely an interesting story, I'm sure, of why you all felt compelled to launch a cigar product.
And to be fair, Anton, we're missing one, the 5th Beatle. His name is Don Araki. He's not here with us, so he's the other partner. But I'll let Ozhen kick it off because he was the mastermind in bringing us together.
So when I bought the cigar lounge at LG Cigar Club, and I started having conversations with a company in Dominican Republic called Los Reyes. They make the Saga cigars, and they also roll for De Bener and Paturo. So we became really good friends, and on our first Pro Cigar trip, when we were there, I asked them if they would like to basically roll cigars for us, and I talked to these gentlemen, asked them if they wanted to be a part of it, and they gladly said yes, which was an awesome thing, and that's when we started our first blend in 2018 by the De Los Reyes family in the Dominican Republic. And the rest is history. Basically, we started our first blend in 2018, and our release date was 2019 for our first blend, which was the El Soñador.
If I can add to that, because he's making it really, we were all members of the lounge. We were all friends. And he came to us and asked us, will you guys be interested in creating your own cigar? And for us, it was like, heck yeah. We would absolutely love to create our own cigar, but we want to do something special, not just for the lounge, but for the masses. And that's how we collectively work together on bringing Casa de Sueños.
And I feel like that's a dream for a lot of cigar people at some point, but many of them, of course, don't pursue it. But the idea of having your own cigar brand. So like when you all were kind of thinking up this idea, were you inspired by some other brands out there, like some other cigars that you smoke? Like, did you smoke something and say, if ever I had a cigar brand of my own, it would, I would want the blend to kind of be like this, or I won't want that experience to kind of be like that?
I think when we started, we all come from different walks of lives, right? So Kerry's a retired police officer. I'm a retired Marine. This guy right here comes from Iran,
Yeah,
via
Germany.
a Puerto Rican, Mexican, black guy. I mean, bro, we're as different as you could imagine.
Mm-hmm.
Synergy between us, man, is just beautiful, right? And we all started off with a cigar that we called our passion cigar, right? Our first cigar ever. But at the end of the day, you know, to answer your question, there are companies out there and families out there who are on the cutting edge of cigars right now. Let's take AJ Fernandez, for example, right? I mean, these companies are doing great things, doing collabs, coming up with new blends, different taste, different experiences for the smoker, right? You have your very traditional cigar companies who continue to do similar things to what, you know, got them started and make them the people that they are. And that's great as well, because the consistency is important.
Mm-hmm.
But I think for us, it was a matter of doing something different, making a cigar that would transition in every third, making a cigar that would have you have an experience where it slows time down. You're able to sit there, reflect on the possibilities that can be and the things that were. So for us, it's innovation and the companies that bring innovation that really, truly motivate us.
Along with the quality of tobacco that
Right.
from De Los Reyes.
And I think that's an interesting thing you said about the transitions, because I'm definitely not an aficionado by any means, but I've noticed that a lot of cigars, as much as they are hyped to have a transition in them, they don't really. Like, it's kind of a easy, steady, and maybe that's just me, but I don't really. There's only been like one or two cigars that really, like, you really, you know, as it progresses, you go, ooh, that's something completely different, or wow, that's stimulating a different part of the palate. So I think that's really interesting that, you know, I'm pretty sure it's probably difficult or a challenge maybe to actually achieve that transition, even though that's always the goal.
Well, we've got a great family behind us, De Los Reyes, Nidka Reyes, as you well know, Michelle down there, Augusto Reyes. These are beautiful, beautiful people that have been in the industry for 160 years, you know, and they know what they're doing, and they've truly, truly mentored us to the point where we're at right now. So,
yeah, and I was wondering too, like, I know that you are working with a factory out of the Dominican Republic. Did it, at any point, did you think maybe you wanted the cigar, you know, to have someone in Nicaragua make it, or someone in Honduras? Like, was the Dominican Republic always kind of like the country of origin that you were going after?
You want to answer that, Ozhen?
Well, I mean, we're always thinking about new things, right? So our next blend that's coming out is actually a Nicaraguan cigar, but it's not going to be rolled in Nicaragua. It's going to be with De Los Reyes, because once you find a family that does the job right, you don't want to deviate from that. You want the consistency in your product, in your quality of tobacco, and the quality of workmanship, right? So we are getting Nicaraguan tobacco, but via De Los Reyes in the Dominican Republic.
I guess that's a good question too, is does the origin of the cigar really matter these days, when if you're working with a good factory like De Los Reyes, like you said, they have access to good tobacco, so they can get tobacco from Nicaragua, they can get tobacco from Dominican Republic, and yet you see with lots of the marketing of cigars, you see them focusing on like where the cigars is quote unquote from or made. Like, does that really matter anymore? Like, with as long as you have a good factory behind you?
Well, again, to us, the only thing that matters is the quality of the cigar, quality of the roll, and the tobacco.
I mean, when you've got Cuba sourcing from Nicaragua and from Dominican Republic, and we still call them true Cubans, you know?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, of course, it is the origin where they are rolled and manufactured, but at the end of the day, you're absolutely right. I don't think that's going to be relevant here in the upcoming years anymore.
Right. I think a good question, not to backtrack a little bit, but, you know, how did each of you get into cigars? Because it's such a niche. Like, when you're working in the cigar industry and you're, you know, thriving in it and doing all this stuff, it kind of is a question that kind of goes by the wayside. But when you think about it in a grand of the world, like, not everyone smokes cigars, not everyone understands cigars. So how did each of you get into the cigar lifestyle?
Well, I'm going to go first. I had my first cigar in '98. One of my friends gave it to me, and I've never smoked anything else in my life before that. So once I smoked that cigar, and it was a Partagas D4. That's what I started with. And when I smoked it, I thought to myself, wouldn't it be amazing one day to have my own line? And it took me about 24 hours to order a humidor and order more cigars online and this and that. And that's how I got started. And then when I joined as a member, I joined LG Cigar Club. And that's when I really got into cigars and experimenting with different cigars and different brands and there. And that's where I started from.
Yeah, for me, it was, I fell in love with the aroma of cigars when I was 9 years old. I was living in Puerto Rico, and my grandfather was a motorcycle cop. And this is back in the days when you can bring your bike to the house, and he would always come in with a little stubby, unlit, and he would put it on the counter while he would change, shower, have dinner, and then relight it again. And so I technically one time decided to try to be like my grandfather, light that cigar, and as a 9-year-old, I turned all different colors. and I didn't pick up another cigar until I was in college. Mm-hmm. And that cigar was one of my roommates came from Spain, and he had a Romeo Julieta in tubo, Churchill. And that's when it all, for me, started again to really dive into cigars and develop my palate when I was a junior in college. And then from there, it just built on.
My first cigar was 1996. I was in the Marine Corps. I got pulled aside by a high-ranking guy who had decided I'd done a great job, and he said, "Hey, man, I want you to try this." It was a Monte Cristo No. 2 Torpedo, and ever since then, I've been smoking and joining the club, and then eventually buying it and being partners with Ozhen here at owning our own cigar lounge is just a day-to-day lifestyle. The immense amount of trips that we've done to the Dominican Republic, spent with the family, in the fields, in production, in everything else has just built my love for tobacco, because you get a true understanding. And you've been there, you've done that. You understand what it takes to put one of these out on a shelf. So, for me, that's the passion there.
And lastly, for me, it started in 1989 as a rookie officer. Just got introduced to it because it smelled better than some of the suspects I was dealing with. So, and then a Monte No. 2, and fell in love. It made me, I liked what it did. It just made the social aspect of it, all that you learn the longer you're in the cigar community, the cigar family, is that you get surrounded by people and talk to people that you may not normally get a chance to talk to. So I love the social aspect of it, the camaraderie of the tobacco world, and it's always have smoked since then. And the longer my career went, all the way to the end, I've never stopped, never will stop, and just love, again, just the sense of making that day be a little bit better, no matter how bad it is, by sitting there having a good cigar.
So it's the running patterns. Many of you came into the cigar industry, or the cigar lifestyle, I should say, right around the time of the cigar boom. And you also kind of were introduced to it through iconic brands like Monte Cristo. So that's, you have a long track record of being able to see the industry evolve over the years from where it was in the cigar boom. And then I heard, those years kind of right after the cigar boom were really kind of shaky for the industry because things weren't as glamorous as they were in the 90s. So, how has the cigar lifestyle and cigar industry kind of changed over the years?
I love, in the past, it was such a male dominant thing to do. And what I've loved, what I've seen in the last 5, 7, 8 years is the evolution of women really coming to the light. They're just as good of cigar smokers, even have better palate than most men. And seeing that, when they come to the lounge, when you see them at the PCA or, at the pro cigar events, just the evolution of that, it's just great. The how it's evolved.
And not just that, but here specifically at the lounge, of course you see who walks in every day and who the consumer is, but all ages now, so you're finding a lot of younger people coming in and enjoying and truly understanding and educating themselves versus it being a celebratory cigar. Whereas in the past, people would come and smoke, we're celebrating this. Now it's become a destination. It's become a lifestyle. It's become an experience because of the education out there. So I think it's extremely important that as manufacturers, as club owners, as brand owners, you have to really, truly get people to understand what they're doing it, why they're doing it, how to do it, versus here's a cigar, purchase it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's an education component for sure, and I think as not only as brand owners, but as the owner of the lounge, it's important to educate, help the new smokers understand what's happening with their palate, right? We're based in Silicon Valley, and so it's cool to see some of these software developers getting into it, right? And it's beautiful to try to get them through the journey of, we're going to start you off with mild, we're going to move you up to medium gradually, right? Because you want that experience to be positive. Otherwise, they'll leave with a negative. You don't want that.
Yeah, it's funny that, sometimes I put content out on TikTok about cigars. And what I found is that there's a lot of people who are very curious about the cigar lifestyle, but they have lots of misconceptions. So like you said, the education part is not there. So, they ask questions, which I think is fun. You don't get many people asking questions on like Instagram anymore about cigars, but, they ask cigars, and like, I find like the number one question that most people who stumble upon like a video about a cigar have to ask is, what's the point? Like they don't get it. These are kind of people who I would say they definitely have more experience with cannabis products and stuff like that. So they say, I get the point of cannabis because, you smoke it and you might get a high from it. I said, but what's the point of a cigar? I said, it seems like a big waste of money. So like, I do feel like we as an industry sometimes are operating so far ahead that we forget that we kind of need to take it back to the basics to educate people what's the point and talk about this stuff. And like you said, and walk them through the process of, okay, you're completely new to this. Let me take your hand a little bit and guide you up to the point where you feel very comfortable continuing this on your own.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And, you asked us about, also, what got us into cigars.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you what keeps us in cigars as well, right? Not only the experience, the cigar culture and everything else, but just the friendship that we have built as the brand owners at CDS, all the things that we've gone through in order to put product on shelf and all the learning, everything that's behind. But I tell you, man, I couldn't do it with a better group of guys than these guys right here. And I think that in the core of cigar smoking, that's what you find, right? You find true friendships. You find great conversation. You find days where we're going to be emotional, where we're going to be at our worst. You find us at our best. And we put those times together, man. And that's what creates a beautiful, beautiful culture, friendship, partnership, whatever you want to call it, brotherhood, sisterhood. So
Community,
yeah.
Yeah, and I think a lot of companies sometimes lose track of that. They get into the business part of it. It's all about spreadsheets. It's all about quantities and stuff like that. But they forget the community aspect. They forget the relationship aspect, and then it becomes kind of loosely. And you don't have a reason. It's like when I get to know a cigar brand and the people behind it, I feel more inclined to buy into that brand or to give it more consideration. And if it's a brand that's, doesn't really have a person behind it or face behind it, and it's kind of, very product based, it's hard for me to get into it sometimes. It's like, am I going to choose that, or am I going to choose, you all? Like, I know you all now, and I'm going to see your product and be like, okay, they really put some time and effort into this thing. I'm going to probably go towards that. And I think that's a maybe this a generational thing. I don't know, but it seems like a lot of companies, like I said, are forgetting that relationship, community aspect of what makes the cigar industry tick.
Yeah. What I would add, Anton, is when we decided to do this, we were going to go all in, but we were going to do it right. We were going to blend.
Mm-hmm.
We were going to blend our cigar. We were not going to just have the house blended for us. But with that, it was with the understanding that we're not going to get rich by doing this. This is all about passion and love and creating a beautiful experience that people can talk about. And for us, we're cool with that. We're cool with that because as long as we continue to blend beautiful cigars that create the experience that we wanted to create, that is fulfilling. And of course, yes, it's nice to grow without question. But I think we're more important about the quality of what's being out there that's representing all of us.
That's one of the reasons why we chose De Los Reyes too, and they chose us, right? I mean, basically,
Yeah.
right? But De Los Reyes allowed us to go into their kitchen and cook up our own blends, right? I think it's extremely important that if you're intimately involved with the tobacco, the process, the blending, everything else, it's your baby, right?
Mm-hmm.
Rather than giving, A, B, or C, pick one, and then we'll rebrand it for you. That was extremely important for us that we did not want to do that. We wanted to make sure that when you do smoke our cigar, we can talk to you about our cigar because from inception, we understand it, right? So just to throw that out there.
Yeah, definitely. Another question that I had for you is like when you have this idea that you want to start your own brand, and that's great, but it's like, how do you actually get started? And I think a lot of people have this idea is like, oh, I have a great idea for a business. And again, it's like, okay, but it's like, how do you actually take that idea and like actually enact on it? So what did you all do in terms of like taking that idea? Because you all kind of came together and said, let's make a cigar brand. Like, yay, like, then what? So how did you all like make it happen?
We weren't drinking, I tell you that. We were sober. We're drinking now. But Kerry, you want to take that? You want to tackle that?
Luck, man. It's just being in the right place at the right time. And again, luck, when I say luck, it's just, again, being able to find that one family that, one, trusted us, that we could do this and are willing to do that, or are committed to doing this. And then just going forward with that, even testing our own selves, testing our palates. We know what we like, but then coming up conceptually and putting that in the cigars, it wasn't as easy as we thought, I think, in our own heads, if we're being honest, but we didn't make it happen. And it's just keep pushing forward. Don't limit yourself. Once you get that opportunity, do not rest on your laurels. Keep going forward 100%. And
So let me thank Jean-Michel publicly.
Yes.
Jean-Michel.
Yes.
He's the only 6'4" Belgium in the Dominican Republic.
Fluent
Fluent in Spanish, French,
and English,
German, and English. But he's walked us through everything. One thing is having money. Anybody can have money and invest in a cigar company. The other part is having the passion. And I think that he saw the passion in us, the drive, the will, and he's walked us through every portion of it, right? So when we're talking about this, we're talking distribution, packaging, how difficult it is to get a box maker in a Dominican Republic.
The shortage of wood.
Yeah.
Bands being backed up for 4 months at a time. There's so much intricacies that fall within, having your own brand. But at the end of the day, it's just keeping at it every single day, and really what brings it all around is going to a show at, in Virginia, in Arizona, Nevada, wherever we are, and, seeing people enjoy our brand of cigars, that's what makes it all okay.
Yeah, what I would add to that is just, I think Kerry said it, we were committed. Look, even though I'm Puerto Rican, I'm Caribbean, I have no lineage in tobacco, right? I know cigars, I know what I like, but it was the commitment, it was the working through the challenges of that. And like Chris said, I mean, Jean-Michel, I call him the maestro, really helped us navigate through those challenging times.
Well, too, I think, you may not have lineage, as you said, but you have passion for the product. And I think the passion is what sets a brand it's just a business thing, and they are out there just to make money. And then there's a passion. And, like you said, it's not exactly industry where you're going to make lots of money easily. So you have to have a passion, I think, for it in order to kind of stick with it. So I think that's probably what sets you all apart. So I wouldn't discredit, the lineage part, but what this whole process of making a cigar, like when you all started to actually make the cigar and you were at De Los Reyes and they were leading you through the process, what part of the process surprised you all the most?
How many cigars we had to smoke in one sitting? That was a lengthy process, right? Because we wanted it. We didn't want to hit and miss. Mm-hmm. And I believe when we first blended our first cigar, El Soñador, which is the black label, that cigar has a double ligero. We were going for medium full. Ecuadorian Havana wrapper, San Vicente binder. And once that cigar aged with the double ligero, it became a complex medium, but a beautiful. I mean, it's I may be biased, but
we are biased.
But it became a beautiful, complex cigar, which then led us to, okay, now we really got to hone in on building that medium full, right, from there. So
for me, the surprise was how much what a blank canvas Nifka Reyes allowed us to play with. I mean, you got four guys initially. The team has now grown with our salespeople on the East Coast, salespeople on the West Coast, our national guy. We now have an 8-person team. But initially, the four of us, the canvas that she allowed us to draw on, knowing that we were, cigar aficionados, we were longtime smokers, shop owners, and stuff like that, but still not the experience of, day-to-day activities at a fabrica. Mm-hmm. And just the ability and canvas that she gave us, man, it was a beautiful thing. And that, can never be repaid back.
So when you all were smoking all these samples that I guess they were helping you make and giving you, how did you keep your palate from blowing out?
Water, and water.
Carbonated water.
Yeah, exactly.
Carbonated water. And
it's not a one-day process, right? We revisit, right? There's several vitolas and blends of what we're tasting. So we're revisiting, not a one-day process, definitely not a one-day process. It takes months. This one here, which is the Angelito, this is our Connecticut blend. And our Connecticut blend actually took us 1.5 years to blend. As you know, the process is you taste it wet, you lay it down for months, you revisit it, see how that tastes, and then you start the process all over again if it's not correct, right? With Connecticut's, there is a tendency within the first couple of puffs to get bitterness out of Connecticut just because of the way the leaf is. We wanted to make sure that wasn't the case with our cigar. We believe that there are certain cigars that you have to take a couple of puffs or maybe the first third that you have to get through a little bit of harshness to get to the good stuff. We don't want that to be our cigar. We want you to have a pleasant experience from the beginning. And that's why it took us 1.5 years, but after 1.5 years, we felt that we had it right. And, now it's out in the market. It's one of our best sellers. So.
And what year did you start this whole process?
Of blending our first cigar?
Or the Connecticut?
The Connecticut.
Blending the first cigar.
Oh, that was in 2018.
18.
Okay.
2018, and by late 2019, the cigar was on shelves.
And what was that feeling like of, going through the whole process of creating a cigar and then getting that cigar like I said, on a store shelf? Like, what did that feel like to you? Like,
Surreal.
Like relief?
Well, scary too. You know,
Yeah,
I mean,
it is. 'Cause-
you know, you have a following. You know, like we have a following here at the shop, but we didn't know how it was going to do nationwide or in a couple different states. You know, we started off slow, but you know, I think relief at the end when it took. I mean, we knew we had a great product. We knew that we had a great tasting cigar, great construction. We draw test 100% of our cigars. So we knew that the product was there, but now are people accepting it, right? So I think there was a sense of not only excitement, but relief at the end when we sold out and we needed to get more boxes manufactured now. You know, I mean, we still have plenty of cigars, but, you know, bands and all that stuff. So I think it was a sense of relief there. And ever since then, man, we've never stopped and just keep pushing, you know, so.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, once you get your hands on a Casa de Sueños cigar, you can truly taste not only the construction, but the transitions of it. It's a complex cigar. We want to create something that is complex, that is going to keep you fully engaged. We don't want to rush anything because, again, for a small boutique brand from Silicon Valley, which you name me how many tobacco companies start in Silicon Valley, we want to do it right? We want that experience. We want our customers to come back for more and to really not just taste one Vitola, but taste all Vitolas because they all smoke differently.
Why, when I'm always curious about how people choose the names of their companies. So when it comes to Casa de Sueños, how quickly did you come to that conclusion? Like, this is the name of the cigar brand, and like, how did you go through that process?
Well, you know, it was. I think what we wanted to. We thought about what we wanted the cigar smoker to experience, right? So when you take a cigar with you, regardless of where you are, at a beach, at a cabin, anywhere, we want that experience to be a pause for you to reflect on your life, future, past wins, you know, and it becomes, you know, an opportunity for you to reflect on what the dreams could have been and what could not have been. And I think with Casa de Sueños, it just made sense because as long as you have one of our Vitolas or a cigar, for that matter, that becomes your space for you to reflect on anything and everything.
And a little bit more than that, you know, it's you see a lot of cigar brands, Casa de, and their last names. For us, it's not about us. For us, it's about the consumer. You know, it's about your dream. You know, what's Antoine's dream, and how do you make that possible? You know, and then when you're smoking a Vitola that takes you an hour and 20 minutes to smoke, you have no choice but to sit there and dream and find ways to make that dream possible. So that's what we want people to focus in on. Subsequently, our lines are El Soñador, Fantasía, and Angelito, which are all related to dreams. Soñador means dreamer in Spanish. Fantasía is a fantasy dream. And Angelito is the little angel that takes care of you while you're sleeping, right? So
we all need that.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we do.
Yes. But I think that's great. I love that focus, you know, like you said, instead of it, because you easily could have probably come up with some kind of brand name that incorporated all your names or initials or something like that. But to make it about the customer, because I think that's a good business mantra or business focus that, again, I think a lot of companies kind of miss out on. You hear so many companies say that, you know, it's all about the customer, but then their actions don't really align with that. And then it's, you know, it's about the bottom line, and it's about the ego and stuff like that. So I love that focus on, like I said, the customer and what they want and what they, you know, what they dream about. Like you said, that's a much more compelling story to me, especially as being a content writer. I would much think that, you know, I could work a lot more with that than, you know, it being all about you all. No offense.
Yeah. Not taken.
I'll tell you this, Antoine. Right now, we're struggling, and it sounds weird, but we're struggling not to grow as fast as we're growing. Okay, what I mean by that is that we're growing pretty rapidly, but we never, ever, ever want to lose sight of the things that make us a boutique brand
And make us who we are.
and make us personal and make us connected with everybody who smokes our cigar. So we're very, very careful about how many shops we open in a year. We're very careful of who we deliver to. We're very careful about who our clients are, because for us, it's 100% about the people that smoke our cigars, nothing else.
And I think that's interesting because just this morning I was listening to a podcast where an entrepreneur was talking about scaling, and the person giving the advice was like, you need to really consider, not scaling too quickly, because lots of businesses want to scale. They want to get as big as possible.
Right.
But, I found in my experience in the cigar industry that some of the smartest brands know that getting too big is not a good idea because you can't serve all the customers. You're just setting yourself up like, the 2020 situation where we have a pandemic and you never, all of a sudden, you have this giant customer base that you can't really serve or some other disaster, supply chain issue, issue with the factory. It's just so many obstacles that you kind of have to build in as a cushion, I think, to the point where like you said, you can't get but so big. So I think that's very interesting to hear. On the subject of boutique, how do you define boutique? And this is like one of my ongoing questions because it changes year to year, decade to decade. Some people feel like it's a bad word. Other people think it's a great thing to be boutique. Some people like to cloak themselves as being a boutique company when they're really not. So
I saw that the other day in an article, a huge company from the DR saying boutique cigars. I'm like, well, I don't know about that. I don't know. What's the industry define it as?
A lot of the industry I've found has kind of felt like boutique is a number, like it's a maximum number that you produce. The other philosophy that I've heard is that boutique is a mindset. It's a philosophy. It's like you can think you can be a big manufacturer, but you think boutique. So I think it's like I said, I think the definition is all over the place. I just think, I don't know. It's size, it's numbers, it's a lot of things.
Yeah, for us, it's definitely not numbers. We're producing a lot of numbers, not as much as, of course, all the big families, but and it's not about sales. For us, I think it's more about being personal, right? 4 owners, right?
5.
You order cigars. Guess who's coming to deliver those cigars, man? Guess who's doing a show for you? The owners are. And we travel together everywhere we go. So it's not just Patrick, Kerry, Ozhen, myself, or Don. We travel together as a core of owners. So let's say, for example, I don't know, a shop in Fresno, Virginia, wherever we are, has an event, we'll show up to your event. And it's that personal that a huge company or a company who's doing a lot of numbers can't do that anymore. So for us, it's that personal touch, along with maybe being innovative. A lot of companies will serve out the same cigars over and over, rebranded, or maybe their taste profile is that of a certain profile that they're very difficult to deviate from that. Companies that are innovative, again, AJ Fernandez, I got to give this guy props, very innovative, and he's got brand new stuff on the market all the time with collabs by himself. I mean, the guy's doing it, right? So when you're that innovative, I think that you can also maybe call yourself a little boutique-ish when you're outside of the norm.
Well, I think is the great thing about AJ Fernandez is, like, as you said, is his collaborations, because it really picked up a couple of years ago to the point where he has his own brand. And what you realize sometimes is you can only deviate so far outside of the boundaries that you kind of create with your own brand. And his way of kind of, I think, being creative and staying innovative is like, well, I'm going to make this cigar for Altadis, or I'm going to, dabble over here and work with Matt Booth, on this, boutique kind of project. And I think that keeps us on his toes. And I think that's what makes him such a, forward-thinking master blender, or just even businessman, that, he's found all these different ways to kind of play around. And like I said, experiment, even sometimes on somebody else's dime, which is pretty innovative in the cigar industry. If you think about it, 'cause he could, and then if it's a collaboration that doesn't really go anywhere, you can easily say like, that wasn't me. It was, it was him.
I guess you could do that, right?
What I would add to that is also not compromising in the quality of the product. I think for us, we taste everything. If there is something with which we haven't had with an issue with the wrapper, right? I mean, the wrapper has all the flavor, right? It changes the profile. We haven't had that. We want to be consistent in the product that is being delivered, that is representing our passion, our love. So small batch is doing everything and everything to make sure that it's a quality product at the end, so that experience is consistent throughout.
And when we're talking about consistency, just walk us through your portfolio. So when people walk into a cigar store and they have Casa de Sueños, what are the different cigars that they might find, and who might those cigars kind of appeal to? Because I'm sure that some might be made for those who like, a more milder cigar, and there might be some for those who look for a little bit more kick. So just walk us through your portfolio of what to look for in terms of Casa de Sueños cigars.
So I'm smoking a Connecticut right now. The Connecticut comes in 3 sizes. It comes in a Gordito, comes in a Corona, and a Churchill. Obviously, the Connecticut is for a lighter profile, but don't confuse light with flavorless. This tobacco here is completely full of flavors. Cinnamon, nutmeg, chocolate. It's just a beautiful combination of sweeter Cubanesque tobacco. It is an Ecuadorian Habano, so it gives you that sweetness. So this obviously would be for the person who prefers a lighter cigar, or for an aficionado who would like to have a first morning cigar with a nice cup of coffee, cappuccino, or latte.
And what's the latest release that you all just put out there?
So this is our latest release. Prior to that, we have Fantasia. Fantasia is also Ecuadorian Habano, but it's got Nicaragua inside of it, so you're going to get a lot more pepper. It's the blue band.
It's defined by the blue band on it.
Okay.
In this one, we sell in a short bellicoso, a Perfecto, and a Toro Gordo. This is a full-body cigar, so you're going to have to eat a good steak meal before you puff on this cigar, because it is very powerful. However, what we didn't want that typical strong cigar that is very fuel-like, and it's overwhelmed by that taste because of the strength. So we made sure that it had a lot of solid flavor, light notes of white pepper, and also the sweetness combined of the Ecuadorian Habano. And then finally, I'll let you talk about this one.
I'm lighting up their Soñador. This is my favorite Vitola, the Toro. This is our black label. This is our first blend. Ecuadorian Habano wrapper, San Vicente. And this is, again, this blend was supposed to be our medium full, and it ended up being a complex medium. It's got double ligero, San Vicente binder, Piloto Cubano, and Criollo. So it's a beautiful cigar. We have it in the Toro, the Robusto, and the Salomon, which is our flagship.
And a Maximo.
Every single one of these cigars is a 6-leaf blend. So every single one has six leaves in it. And here in 2 weeks, no, 1 week, we're heading out to the Dominican Republic for production on our next release. We'll let you know the name and everything as soon as we make that announcement. And everything else has already been in the works for probably about 8 months when we first blended the cigar. It is Nicaragua sourced leaves, going to be built in Dominican Republic with Los Reyes.
One thing that we can tell you in agreement is that it's going to be a red label. We don't know. We haven't said what kind of red. If it's candy apple red, you know,
Lambo red,
fire engine red.
Exactly.
The red release. So we'll be looking for that. What does, I mean, we've talked about your brand and your kind of story arc in this 45 minutes that we've been speaking. I'm sure at some point when you were starting off your company, you had an idea of what success would be like what success would look like for your brand. So looking back at all you did and like where you are today, how would you define success as a brand? Like what makes your brand and your company successful, and what kind of keeps you going?
I'll tackle that real quick. I think consistency. All of our 3 blends. I mean, we're not a a hit or miss. We came with 1 blend and that was it. I think we're the 3 blends that we have put out in the market reflect our ability to blend, our ability to create something different. And so the consistency from that standpoint, instead of every time you pick up one of our vitolas, regardless if it's a medium full, or mild, you're going to get a different experience from that. And it's going to either, more than likely, it's going to make you to come back and try some more. So
I think success for me would be keeping it at a level. So we're not going to be that brand that goes over 10 blends ever. If I sell you one of my cigars, if I give you one of my cigars and I lose track of what's in that cigar, it's no longer personal, right? So I want to make sure that if I bring something to your shop, if I share one of the cigars with you, that I'm able to be intimate with it and tell you exactly what's in there, because that's how personal of a gift a cigar is. You never see, hey, let me bum one off of you. You do that in cigarettes, right? Like somebody's doing like, let me bum one of those off of you. You never, ever see that in cigar industry. And you don't, because it's such an intimate gift. It's such a personal thing that you give somebody and say, here. And you only do that when you feel a connection with somebody. If you don't feel a connection with somebody or don't know anybody, you are not going to dig into your box. You're not going to dig into anything and say, here, have one of my cigars. And if you do that with somebody, you're going to give them the shittiest cigar you can ever give them, because you don't want to waste your good cigars on them, right? So for me, it's going to be about still being personal, still being small enough to where we can attend events with every shop that we sell to, and share good conversations with everybody that has their cigar in our hands. So.
And to piggyback on that, to what Chris and both Patrick said, yes, never lose in sight of how we got here, of what made us get into this crazy industry, what made us feel comfortable in every lounge we've ever been to prior to being in the industry, and every lounge going forward. Is we want to always have that best customer service, best brand owner, be like a person that represents not just our cigar, but the industry. Never want to be that person that somebody can say, I met this person and X happened, unless it's a positive experience. We always want to be positive, because for every positive experience, people may not remember, but every negative, 100% of people are going to remember.
Very true.
And by the way, we never want to lose that we are the crazy guys from California. Bro. Every party we go to, every festival we go to, people know, oh, there's the guys from California, Los Gatos, California. We don't ever want to lose that, man, because that's how we're having fun, dude. We don't take ourselves too serious, man. We like to have a couple of drinks. We love to smoke cigars. We
Talk
love
to great
party.
people like you.
I mean, that's what we do, man. So we don't ever want to lose sight of that. Right now.
I think Jean-Michel is the one who gave us that name back in 2018. The crazy guys from California.
To wrap up this interview, or this part of the interview, I would love for you to share with us what your philosophy is. So, like, do you have a philosophy that you kind of live by? And this is a question for each of you to kind of close out, like I said, this conversation. But do you have a philosophy that you live by, or what is it?
Don't run with scissors.
Yeah, well, don't run with scissors. Just because of my chosen profession, don't take tomorrow as a guarantee. Surround yourself with good people, and you'll have better days.
You know, for me, I think it's as I related to cigars, it's don't waste your time smoking a shitty cigar. Put it down, get yourself a good cigar, right? I think that is my moniker, is that you're putting something. You should always, this allows you to slow things down, decompress, have a camaraderie with people that you never met. I mean, that's the beautiful thing about a cigar. No matter where you are in the world, you start smoking a cigar, you're going to get a smoker to come and talk to you, right? So that is a beautiful thing that it unites us. So I think for me, is don't spend time smoking a shitty cigar. Get a good cigar. Now, it doesn't mean that it's the most expensive.
Right.
So,
and for me, it's our hash mark, man. It's dream differently, outside of the box thinking, dreaming as much as you want to dream, and making that a possibility, man. That's it for me.
Awesome. Can you tell people who are not watching this what website they need to visit for more information, and what social media they need to be aware of to get to know more about Casa de Sueños?
Yeah, so for retailers that want to purchase our cigars, sueñoscigars.com. For people who want to purchase a cigar and try it out, go to smallbatchcigars.com.
luxury.
And luxury cigar boxes also has them. And let's see what else. Oh, we're on Instagram, which is Casa de Sueños Cigars.
Casa _de_Sueños _cigars.
We like the underscore.
We like the underscore.
Well, great. Well, thank you all for coming on the show. And for those of you who are watching, just make sure you go to Deep Cuts Live if you missed any part of this interview.